You everybody for joining us today for Water Cooler Conversations. I'm Amanda Quintanilla from UTRGV Police Department, and today we have Nicole Rodriguez from the Hidalgo County District Attorney's Office. Thank you all for joining us for our last session for the spring semester. Today, our topic is Special Crimes Division, Prosecuting Sexual Assault. Okay. And my screen is frozen. Give me a second, everybody. I'm sorry. Okay. Like I said, today we have Nicole. Nicole and I know each other. We're friends. I'm excited that she's here to join us today. April is Child Abuse Awareness Month and also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be with us. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you so much, Amanda, and everybody from UTRGV for allowing me to speak about this subject today. And everybody that's here, thank you so much. And my name is Nicole Rodriguez. I'm an assistant district attorney for Hidalgo County. I've been doing this for about 8 years, so I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. Today, our objectives are to gain an understanding of what the Special Crimes Division is. It's also to recognize the importance of the role of a prosecutor and to identify how the district attorney's office participates throughout the investigative and the legal process. These are very sensitive topics, so remember we have our disclaimer and our trigger warning. I'm gonna go over this really quick. The content of this presentation and discussion could be troubling, especially for survivors of violence victimization or harassment. Please feel free to leave if the discussion triggers an upsetting response. Please treat the session as a safe space and respect the boundaries of others, especially if their views or experiences are clearly troubling to them. Okay, moving on. Having some technical difficulties, everybody. I'm so sorry. So, okay, we're gonna take it away here. So Nicole, tell us, what is the Special Crimes Division?
Sure. So we are a specialized unit prosecuting cases involving crimes against children, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and capital murder of children. Our team is led by our chief, Hope Palacios, and there's myself, Nicole Rodriguez, Marcela Salinas, Veronica McCann, and Laura Rodriguez. Those are also assistant district attorneys that have these type of cases. Mm-hmm. We also have an investigator assigned to us. Her name is Linda Greenwood. Our victim advocate, Hilda Cifuentes, our legal assistant, Jessica May, and of course, we have the support of our elected DA, Ricardo Rodriguez Jr., and our first assistant DA, Juan Villescas.
Awesome. That sounds like a great team, and I know a few of them, so I know that they are in this to really help our community out. Where is your all's office located, and then what are your all hours of operation?
Sure. So our office is located catty corner to the courthouse, and actually we're right behind the new courthouse that's being constructed. Our address is 100 East Gano in Edinburgh, Texas. The building is called the Hidalgo Courthouse Annex 3. It's a 5-story building with gold windows. I believe it used to be a bank back then. So our office hours normally are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, when dealing with these cases that we deal with, we work a lot with professionals, whether it be doctors, counselors, psychologists, teachers, etc. And we know how busy and important their jobs can be. So, we're accommodating, we're flexible. Maybe they need to meet after 5 or we need to go to their office. It just depends. In addition, we work with a lot of families and the victims are children in our cases. So we also have to be flexible with them. Maybe a child is in a school activity, whether it be sports or band, or maybe just something that they, have an outlet to. Or, STAR testing is coming around and, we don't want them missing important exams. So, we're flexible. Maybe, we need to meet with the child after hours or on the weekend. So, our victim advocate, Eva, she's amazing. And she's with us and, we're flexible.
That's so important. That's so good because like you said, I mean, These are very difficult conversations. These are very difficult topics, and the fact that you all are accommodating is so important to our victims and their families.
Yeah.
I know that the pandemic hit everybody, and we're still working remotely. A lot of us from UTRGV. How about your all's office? How is that working out right now?
So as far as us handling the pandemic, we're still getting new cases. We're still continuing to work on our already existing cases.
Mm-hmm.
However, court is currently held via Zoom. The courthouse doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have, us going into the courtroom just yet. Jury trials are currently on hold right now due to the pandemic, but those should start up again. We're hoping this year. Again, when the Board of Judges deem that it's safe to start those proceedings. We're still meeting with victims and families and witnesses, but for everybody's safety, those meetings are being held over Zoom or the telephone, depending on each person's technology, resources, or capabilities.
That's good. That's good. I like the fact that, safety is number one priority for staff, for faculty, for everybody, for its citizens and victims.
Yeah.
How does a case get to the DA's office? Who files charges? How does that work?
Okay, so generally, a child will make an outcry. So we usually use the word outcry, and basically that's just saying that, a child is for the first time telling somebody what happened to them and who did that to them.
Mm-hmm.
And usually what we see is they'll tell a parent, a counselor or school personnel. So once that adult hears this information, they're going to make a report with law enforcement or CPS, and then the investigation will take place. But we're also seeing adults, that abuse happened to them when they're children.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they didn't outcry then, but now, or maybe they weren't even being paid attention to back then. Maybe they did outcry and,
True.
the adults around them didn't take the appropriate steps. So we're seeing them now call the police departments and file reports themselves. I've had several cases involving this situation. So
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit of background on that. So
Mm-hmm.
there used to be a statute of limitations on these type of cases. So meaning that after so much time had passed, charges could no longer be pressed. So, if a child took a while to outcry, the statute of limitations would have passed. But since 2007, Texas has realized the normality of children taking time to outcry. And there's no longer a statute of limitation on these child sexual abuse cases.
That is such good information. That's a lot of information, but it's so important because I know in the past, our office has worked with your office when it comes to adults reporting from past childhood. So that's really good for you to share with us. Thank you. How many cases would you say come across your desk, maybe on a daily, on a weekly?
So it just really just depends, but normally I know our chief, these cases take a lot of work, and there's a lot of information that's in these cases, and they're very sensitive and they're very, very important. So our chief, Hope Palacios, she makes sure that we don't have too many cases, so that we're neglecting one or the other. So I would say I have around like 30, 35 cases. Of course, my chief has more. The other prosecutors around here too, they have around the same in the unit. But again, that fluctuates because maybe we'll have a case that pleads out or goes to trial or is just deposed in some way. And so, I've been with this unit maybe going on 4 years. I couldn't tell you how many cases I've had. Yes, we do have a very heavy caseload.
I would imagine. I do want to put a little pause here and just remind our viewers that these are very sensitive topics. If you need to stop listening, please do so. And please know that there is help out there. Reach out to Victim Services, the PD, or the OVAP office. I just, again, wanted to reiterate that before we move along. What are the different kinds of, I know you mentioned it before, but just to review a little bit, what are the different kinds of offenses or crimes that come across your desk, Nicole?
So we have cases involving injury to a child, capital murder of a child, continuous sexual abuse of a child, aggravated sexual assault of a child, improper student-teacher relationship, indecency with a child by sexual contact, indecency with a child by exposure. So those are some of the, more frequent cases that I
Wow.
see come up on my desk.
That's a lot. Those are very heavy duty cases. What are the ages that you often see of the kiddos that you work with?
So in my experience, I've
Mhm.
had cases where, the child was an infant, up to an adult. So I have cases, like I said earlier, like that there's now adults coming forward that this
Right.
happened to them as children. So some of the victims on these cases are, 30, 31 years old. So
Mhm.
it's a huge range, but we deal with a lot of different ages.
Wow. So I know that a lot of us are TV junkies, you and me included, and we learn a lot from TV, right? So whether it's Law and Order, SUV, we think everything happens so quickly in that hour time frame. But in working with this in this field, we know that that's not true. That is one thing for sure. So I think the easiest or the best way for us to understand a case is for you to walk us through it, like the process, the who gets involved, the time frame, just take it from there.
Okay, sure.
I think it'll be easier to grasp.
Okay, so when a child first makes an outcry, a police report will be taken, and it just depends on where the child says that the offense took place. So
Mhm.
that's when the local agency where the offense took place will get involved. An initial officer will come out, take a report, and then an investigator will be assigned. So a lot of our local agencies, I can't think of one that doesn't have it, but most
Mhm.
of them are starting to have specialized units as well, dealing investigators that have experience in dealing with these type of cases. So we're dealing a lot with the same investigators, and so that investigator will be assigned. And so right away, I know that he or she will set up a forensic interview for a child, and that's going to be at Gosses house here in Edinburgh. And they will be interviewed by a trained forensic interviewer. And based on the type of abuse the child outcried to, the child will also be taken to get a sexual assault examination, where we want to make sure that the child's well-being and health is a priority. And also the
Definitely.
forensic nurse is going to do a full examination on the child's body. And depending on what the child tells the nurse,
Mhm.
as far as the acts described by the child that the defendant did to that child, the nurse is going to determine whether the nurse is going to check for swabs or collect DNA testing for
Mhm.
DNA testing.
Mhm.
So going back to that forensic interview, so that interview is conducted inside of a room with just the child and the forensic interviewer. Outside of that room, and the child cannot see that there's law enforcement, but it's a separate room, and
Mhm.
basically they can see a video of that child's interview. And so also CPS is also in that room with law enforcement, and they're basically just observing and listening. And they're just depending on what the child outcries to, that's important for the investigator because that's going to kind of determine where his investigation is going to go next.
Mhm.
Where did this act occur? Did it occur in a house? Did it occur in a school? Did it occur in a restaurant?
Mhm.
So just depending on that, the investigator will go out, take photographs of where it happened, maybe collect clothing, maybe collect bedding. Also, we've had cases where maybe there was text messaging between the perpetrator and the child, and
Mhm. True.
maybe the investigator wants to get a search warrant for that cell phone of the defendant.
Mhm.
um, so it just depends on again what the child outcries to. So after the investigators complete investigation, he'll then go and ask for a arrest warrant from a local magistrate judge, and then execute the arrest warrant. Then that's when that case is then forwarded to our office, the DA's office. We have an intake division, and
Mhm.
what they do, the prosecutors up there,
Mhm.
is they, show the evidence to what's called a grand jury, and they present the evidence, and then the grand jury decides whether they're going to indict the defendant, press formal charges against him, or they're going to no bill. And basically, if they no bail, the case just stops there. But once that case is indicted, that's when it gets assigned to a district court. And then that's when those cases come to us.
That's a very lengthy process, but I'm glad that you spell it out for everybody so that we can know that it doesn't happen overnight. It is a lot of people that's involved.
Yes. And then it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
We then go into the court process. And again, like I said, these cases are very, very important, and they take a lot of work. We want to make sure that we're looking at everything. We're dealing with children here. So we need to make sure that we're looking at everything very clearly, and doing what's best, for the child and for our community.
Most definitely. You mentioned, I know there are a lot of people in your unit. What is the role of the in-house investigator? What does Investigator Greenwood do for your unit? How does she help?
So Miss Linda Greenwood, again, she has tons of experience as a law enforcement officer. I can't even tell you how many years she has, but she basically is going to assist us in our cases. If we get a case and maybe, in looking through initial records that we got from law enforcement, we see something that the child was getting counseling, or maybe the child was also outcried to a doctor, a pediatrician. She's going to assist us in getting those records, that additional evidence. She's also going to help us make contact or locate families and victims. I already talked about how long the process can be until we do our desk. So, we just want to make sure that if we can't locate somebody, Linda's going to go out there and try to find them. Because again, maybe they're like, I don't know what's going on with the process, or why is it taking this long? And so she's going to assist us in making contact with that family as well. She's also, again, has a lot of experience in these type of cases. So local law enforcement agencies, if they have any questions, she's there to assist them as well.
Wow, that's awesome. What about, you hear the word prosecution? What is the word? What does it mean?
Sure. So prosecution basically means to seek justice. We're not here just to send people to jail, to convict. Like I said earlier, these are very important cases, and we need to make sure that our community is protected, the victims protected, and also we need to make sure that the defendant's rights, that are given to him by the Constitution, are also protected.
Yeah. What about your victim advocate? So I know Hilda, I know that she does a lot there for your unit. What kind of work does she do? How does she assist the victims?
Sure. So Miss Hilda is amazing. She's an amazing victim advocate. She's also going to assist us. So these cases, they require us going to court, very frequently, and so maybe we may not be there in our offices at all the times to make answer any questions that a victim may have, or a parent, or what have you. So she's gonna be there to also answer any questions. And if she can't answer the question, she has my cell phone number. She's texting me right away, hey, this mother or this child has a question. Can you please contact them as soon as you can? And I will. She's also here to let them know, victims' rights services, and also resources. What does our community have? What resources do we have? A lot of parents, they come in and maybe they have concerns about their child's, mental health, and, what kind of counseling services are out there? How can they get their child help?
Yeah, that's a lot. That's great. What about, so, there's an ongoing case. Do you all call the victims to give them updates? Do they have to call you all? How does that work?
Yeah, so we're usually calling them. We're like, once a case hits my desk, either I'm making initial contact, or I'm having Miss Hilda Cifuentes make contact with them. Also, when we have court, we're letting them know, we're letting the families know and the victims know this is the court date. If you would like to be present, these are the instructions. Now we're operating via Zoom, and so it's kind of a different situation, but we're letting them know, hey, this is how you can log in to Zoom so you can be present.
Okay.
Also, we're also letting them know that, maybe it's when something significant has happened on the case. Maybe that there's a motion to reduce bond filed by a defendant because, we want to make sure, if that they're fully informed if
Okay,
a
right there.
bond is going to be reduced by a judge. Also, maybe if the defendant is, talking about wanting to take a plea, admit guilt, we want to make sure that they're fully informed and fully involved in that process as well.
Mhm.
So as far as us making contact with them, we do that frequently.
Okay, that's good.
However, I always tell the families and the
Mhm.
parents, and the victims on these cases, if you ever have a question, you can reach out whenever you'd like, and we're going to get back to you as soon as we can if we're not available right then and there. A lot of these cases, they're, time consuming and it can be a very frustrating process for the family. And
Right.
so we want to make sure that we take out the fear of the unknown. We want to make sure that we answer every
Definitely.
question and we do it in a timely manner as well.
That's so good that at least, the families that you work with, they know they can call you, they can call, Linda Greenwood, they can call Ilda. They have somebody there that is willing to listen and take the time to walk them through the steps and, and hold their hand through everything because it's so much to undertake.
Yeah.
Wow. But it's okay. So let's say though that the victim or the caretaker, whether it's the parent or the guardian, doesn't want to cooperate in the case. What happens then? What do you all do if they don't want to participate, or if they just say, "Hey, you know what, Mr. Rodriguez, I want to drop charges." What happens then?
So usually we've seen that a lot in cases where, maybe a child's going to recant. We want to know, why is that child recanting? Basically, recanting means the child is saying, I made it up. This really didn't happen to me.
Hmm.
We're not going to just drop charges right then and there. We need to, again, like I said, these cases are very serious. They involve a lot.
Right.
So we need to fully assess the case. We want to see, why is this child recanting now? Are they being threatened? Maybe mom was protected in the very beginning. She was doing everything she had to do. She called law enforcement once a child outcried. But now maybe the defendant is dad and the defendant is incarcerated because of the charges. And maybe he was the one that was, making the income for the family. And
Hmm.
so, now that the father is incarcerated, maybe the mother is starting to feel the pressures of, the lack of resources or income that they're now having to endure with. And we see that now,
Yeah.
not only the child is maybe being pressured by a mother, but also, other family members or friends that are, supporting the defendant. And so we need to make
Mm.
sure that, we're just not dropping charges because, a child just said it didn't happen. We need to make sure, what happened. We've taken, after fully assessing a case and, looking at other evidence to support that this really did happen, we
Right.
are taking those cases to trial, and letting the jury know everything that went on, the child recanting and the reasons why the child recanted and other evidence to support, that this happened.
Hmm.
You'd be surprised that even in those type of cases, are they more difficult to prosecute? Of course.
Most definitely.
But juries can see the reasons why a child could recant, for not a good reason, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
they've actually come back with, guilty verdicts, um,
Wow.
after hearing everything. So
Yeah.
also we see a lot where, family members or victims don't want to cooperate, but it
Hmm.
goes back to, the fear of the unknown,
Most. Hmm.
so it's super important to educate them, like, this is going to be the process. This is what you need to expect. And once we start having those conversations with them, then they start understanding and cooperating more. Because, court can be a very scary process for anybody, even for lawyers that have been doing it for a very long time.
Of
You know,
course.
everybody that
Yes.
gets like a jury card or jury summons, I start
Yeah.
getting
That's
calls
still
like, oh my
scary.
gosh, I'm terrified to show up to court.
Like, I
You
don't
know,
want to go to that big room. Yeah.
So you can imagine how a child may feel,
Exactly.
so.
Exactly. It's good to know though that, a couple of weeks ago we had Estrella's house here, we had Rosita here, walking us through the steps. And then the fact that both of your offices, you work together, you're doing your part, you're doing your best to try to help the kids and their families feel as comfortable as possible, because this process is lengthy and it's hard for everybody involved. We're getting to a close here, but I do have one more question. Is there a specific court that is appointed for your unit? And what's the difference between the Special Crimes Division and the Child Welfare Court? Because sometimes that can be a little confusing because everybody just thinks kids,
Yeah. So as far as the Special Crimes Division, all of our cases fall in all the district courts in Hidalgo County. So we have the 92nd, we have the 93rd, we have the 139th, we have the 206, the 332nd, the 389th, the 398th, the 430th, and the 464th. So, we're making appearances in all the district courts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference between the Child Welfare Division, so I did child welfare right when I started with the office, and that was back in 2013. And so the difference with that is it's more of the civil side. So our office, the DA's office, is representing the Department of Family Protective Services when they remove children from the home because they're being abused or neglected. And the DA's office will continue to represent that the department, I apologize, when they're going through the statutory hearings. To usually the department's goal is family reunification, but also the department's going to have service plans for the family and making sure that they're getting the resources that they need to successfully have family reunification. But unfortunately, there's some times where maybe the parents aren't doing services, or maybe the parents did something so egregious to the child that the department can't recommend family reunification. So maybe they'll recommend a family member, or they'll seek to terminate parental rights. And that's where our office, the prosecutors that are assigned to that division, will represent the department throughout that whole process.
Whew.
I'm sorry.
Everybody catch that? I know. No, but it's so good. That's all. I hope everybody caught that. There's a pop quiz at the end. No, it's just such great information. It really is. And if anybody, viewing this has questions, they can always reach out to your office, to our office, to the OVAP, most definitely. I'm trying to get to the resource page here, and of course, it doesn't want to work. But Nicole, are there any parting words you'd like to say before we come to an end to our viewers?
Yes, I would just like to say to anybody that's watching right now, if you are or somebody that has been a victim of abuse or physical abuse, report it to your local agency, contact CPS. If you see something, say something. Children are the most innocent and vulnerable population in our society. You could be saving someone's life or preventing further abuse. I know that there's some times where you see something and maybe you're not sure, but you get that little feeling in your stomach. Go ahead and report it and let CPS investigate, or law enforcement. We have a lot of experienced professionals, law enforcement professionals, and CPS investigators that do wonderful jobs.
That is very true. Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us today. Priscilla is able to share her screen. So there are our university resources for our campus community. And then we also have the community resources as well. There we are. Nicole, thank you from the bottom of my heart for saying yes. This is a very hard subject to talk about. And like you said, we all work together. We're all here to help. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And again, I know it's a lot of information and maybe overwhelming, but we're here. My name is Nicole Rodriguez. I'm in the Special Crimes Division for the Hidalgo County District Attorney's Office.
You're awesome, Nicole. To everybody watching, we're closing out Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness Month next week. We have Denim Day. We are also having a virtual table fair. So please get on social media, the OVAP page, the PD, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so that you all can learn more details, because the table fair will be next Thursday. We'll have UTRGV and a few community agencies. So please come join, ask questions. And Denim Day, send us pictures and learn more about the details and the backstory of Denim Day. Pay attention to social media. Remember that we are all here to help you if you need anything. And again, Nicole, thank you so much. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Everybody be careful, be safe, and have a great rest of the day.